morning. You with us here on Breakfast News on DD India, and we'll get you all the updates from across the nation, world, sports and business updates, and our focus will be on the Asia's biggest aerospace and defense show, the Aero India-2021 that will kick off today. We'll get you all the updates, the live coverage from there, and much more news that's been making it to the headlines this morning. I am Nancy Kohli, and with me is my colleague Anil Thomas. Good morning, Anil.
Good morning, Nancy. Well, lots to look forward to. Remember, this is 60 minutes of fact action bulletin that we have for you. We cut all the noise, bring you facts as it happens. Lots to look forward to from business and also sports. Business especially, Sensex shooting up 1200 points, Nifty at 14,650. Is the day going to see another bull run there at the stock markets? Also in sports, 9 goals past Southampton. That's what Manchester United scored. New Zealand in the ICC World Test Championship final. There is a spot to fight for India, Australia, England, all vying to take that second spot in that ICC Test Championship. So lots to look forward to in the next 60 minutes. Let's begin with the top headlines that we are tracking at the top of this hour.
India's might to be at display at Asia's biggest aerospace and defense show, the Aero India, to kick off today. Centered around Aatmanirbharta, the event this year will be in a hybrid format with both physical and virtual exhibitions in view of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Aatmanirbharta chosen as a Hindi word of the year 2020 by Oxford University Press. The word saw a massive spike in popular usage after Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Aatmanirbharta campaign, emphasizing on self-reliance as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Uncertainty over for class 10th and 12th students. The CBSE releases date sheet for board examinations that will be conducted from the 4th of May till the 10th of June. The results will be declared on 15 July. The date sheets can be downloaded at the cbse.nic.in.
Parliament to continue discussion on the motion of thanks on President's address. Both houses witnessed repeated adjournments due to ruckus by the opposition over the new farm laws on Tuesday.
India makes progress in the battle against COVID-19. The lowest number of daily new infections in 8 months. Daily deaths also fall below the 100 level. Over 41 lakh healthcare workers vaccinated so far. Gujarat and West Bengal initiate the vaccinating of the frontline workers.
Well, those were the headlines there at 8, and now we look forward to the top story that's coming from the biennial event, the Aero
India. Absolutely. Yeah, the Aatmanirbharta refrain in the defense sector rang loud and clear in the address of the Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh in a curtain-raiser event to the 3-day, the biennial aerospace and defense show Aero India in Bengaluru set to begin today. In keeping with the call, the Raksha Mantri also inaugurated the second production line of indigenous fighter aircraft Tejas on Tuesday.
Giving a clear line of center's view of fulfillment of the nation's long-term weapons requirement, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has made it clear that India will continue to encourage indigenization of defence equipment platforms. Addressing the curtain raiser for the biennial aerospace and defence show Aero India in Bengaluru, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh further emphasized the call for Aatmanirbhar Bharat. He said that India cannot remain dependent on other countries for its defence.
कब तक हम देश की सुरक्षा के लिए दुनिया के दूसरे देशों पर डिपेंडेंट रहेंगे? लंबे समय तक नहीं रह सकते। और हमारे प्रधानमंत्री का तो बार-बार आग्रह रहता है कि इंडिजिनाइजेशन को, स्वदेशीकरण को जितना भी हम बल दे सकते हैं, हम वो बल देना चाहिए और उस पर हमको कदम आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए। हम सभी का यह संकल्प है कि हम जो भी बनाना होगा, डिफेंस इक्विपमेंट्स, प्लेटफॉर्म्स, वेपन्स, कोशिश हमारी यह है कि हम खुद बनाएंगे और सीमा की और अपने स्वाभिमान की दोनों की सुरक्षा भी करेंगे।
As a message to the adversaries and the world alike that India means business and is willing to walk the talk. RM earlier in the day inaugurated the second production line of Tejas fighter aircraft at the HAL facility. He said that the deal to acquire 83 Tejas will give new heights to the Indian aerospace sector.
नए तेजस प्लांट के कारण एम्प्लॉयमेंट के डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली अपॉर्चुनिटीज इससे जनरेट होंगी, ये बट नेचुरल है। बहुत सारे लोगों को काम मिलेगा ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। और मेरी जानकारी में यह भी आया है कि आप सबने सिस्टम इंटीग्रेटेड मॉडल को जो अपनाया है उसके तहत 650 डिजाइन और प्रोडक्शन एजेंसीज भी आपके साथ जुड़ रही हैं। भारत दुनिया का अकेला देश है जिसने दुनिया के सारे देशों को पीछे छोड़कर आगे बढ़ रहा है और उसकी प्रोजेक्टेड ग्रोथ डबल डिजिट में है, यानी अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 11.5 होगी, यह इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड ने कहा है।
The 13th edition goes into the history of India's aviation history, as this is the show which the defense forces have come together and bravely confronted the pandemic and brought this new edition of Aero India to the people, to the manufacturers, the exhibitors and the buyers and sellers who meet here at Bangalore's Yelahanka Air Force Station. So Yelahanka Air Force Station is all set for the takeoff for these mighty aircrafts, India's might. Behind me you can see Tejas.
The biennial aerospace and defense show Aero India-21 will begin from Wednesday at the Yelahanka Air Force Base near Bengaluru. More than 500 exhibitors have registered for the exhibition. Raksha Mantri said that the event would help bring together defense ministers and senior officials of various countries together. The minister added that the Aero India would provide the necessary impetus to drive India's defense manufacturing.
The Aero India would spark a renewed sense of pride in India's defense manufacturing and take defense cooperation to the next level.
This year, more than 500 exhibitors are exhibiting their wares, which is hardware for the aerospace industry, as well as 35 delegations are taking part. This is also an opportunity for India to showcase its Aatmanirbharta power, which means the made in India products. It is an excellent opportunity for foreign investors to invest in India's manufacturing industry if India has to become a $25 billion defense manufacturing industry by the year 2025.
The Aero Show will include flypasts and demonstrations for the visitors. The theme of the Aero India is Aatmanirbharta, and many made in India products and platforms such as LCH light combat helicopter, Tejas Mk1A will be showcased. The Aero India-21 will help forge partnerships for FDI and Indian defense corridors. Many leading defense manufacturing firms will be exhibiting their latest air platforms to grab attention and maybe also some business. With Nandita Dagar and Aisha Khanu, DD India.
And let's now go across to our correspondent Nandita Dagar, who's joining us over the phone line. She'll be covering the Aero India 2021 there in Bengaluru today. Nandita, very good morning. Once again, Indian defense sector going to be the highlight there at the Aero India 2021. And very important, the theme, of course, Aatmanirbharta in defense manufacturing as well. Bengaluru sky will once again witness the breathtaking maneuvers as far as 13th edition of the Aero India is concerned.
Yes, you're right, Nancy. The day is a packed one, not just for the visitors here, the delegates here, but also for the people who are here witnessing and the top brass from Delhi who have come. You rightly mentioned the inaugural ceremony is due to start at around 9:30 in the morning. After that, the Defence Minister and the Secretary of Defence Production, along with the chiefs of DRDO and the service chiefs, will take part in of course inaugurate it, and then a flypast will be conducted over the skies of Bengaluru at the Yelahanka Air Force Base, and this would include firstly India's Aatmanirbhar Bharat. That is the theme of this year's Aero Show is self-reliance or make in India. And India's homegrown technologies designed and developed by the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and DRDO, they will be the mainstay of the skies this time. Also, after that, the Defence Minister will inaugurate the India Pavilion, where DRDO, Ordnance Factory Boards, the various public sector undertakings have their stalls, and they will be exhibiting their wares. Huge participation from the Russian industry. Also, I would like to tell you, Nancy, that this time this show is very, very strict as far as COVID protocols are concerned.
Sure.
Nobody is allowed inside without a mandatory negative COVID test,
Right.
and that is also should not be more than 72 hours old.
Okay.
So, thermal sensors, face masks being mandatory, all these precautions are being observed, and for the first time, Nancy, this is a hybrid air
Right.
show, and air show anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Not just in India, because not just the physical presence of delegates, but also seminars will be conducted virtually, that is through online video conferencing, and it is a completely paperless aero show because brochures, literature, booklets, etc., they are completely absent this time, and digitally, digital means are being used to disseminate information about the various stalls, companies, products, etc.
Okay. Nandita, every Aero India show is about a showstopper. This time around, what's the showstopper demo or fly pass that one should look forward to?
Yes, one should look for the Aatmanirbharta flight, which includes Tejas and light combat helicopters. We have several. The light combat helicopter is India's own attack helicopter. It is not, of course, as heavy as the Apache, but it packs a punch, and it has a lot of teeth and can be used in multi-role configurations from air to ground and air to air format. And you would have seen these kind of actions in various Hollywood films also. So it is India's own answer to Apache, and of course India's Tejas Mark 1A. This is the new Tejas, which means with over 43 around 43 more improvements from the earlier Tejas version, Tejas Mark 1. So Tejas Mark 1A, you can see in the skies, of course, the Rafale, which are now part of India's inventory at Ambala. They, of course, will be flying along with the French Rafales. And I would say that this time people, of course, the celebrations have been a little scaled down considering the pandemic. But as far as the air display is concerned, the Surya Kirans, which is the aerobatic team of the Indian Air Force, and the helicopter team Sarang, they of course, yesterday also they mesmerized the visitors and the audiences over there with their aerobatics, and beautiful, they created patterns in the sky.
Right.
So these are some of the things that people can look forward to in the sky, over the skies of Yelahanka.
All right, Nandita Daga, thank you very much for joining us this morning
Anil.
and sharing with us all those details. We'll, of course, be covering the Aero India 2021 as it kicks off this morning and all the live coverage here on DD India. Let's move on now.
Lots to look forward to from that particular event. We'll be getting that live coverage of that particular event that begins at 9:30 this morning, just after breakfast news gets over. Well, moving forward now to the Oxford Languages that has announced Aatmanirbharta as the Hindi word of the year 2020. The word implies self-reliance, something that has resonated with many Indians over the past 12 months. The Oxford Hindi word of the year is a word or expression that is chosen to reflect the ethos, mood or preoccupations of the passing year and have lasting potential as a term of cultural significance. India experienced stringent lockdowns throughout most of 2020 due to COVID-19 pandemic, with the restriction of movement and day-to-day activities slowing down economic activity and impacting millions of people. In the early months of the pandemic, when announcing India's COVID-19 recovery package, Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized the need to become self-reliant as a country. He launched the Aatmanirbharta campaign to help India to navigate the pandemic as an economy, as a society and as individuals. He also said that India would pursue policies that promote efficiency, equity and resilience. This resulted in a massive increase in the usage of Aatmanirbharta, highlighting its prominence as a phrase and concept in the public lexicon of India. The Aatmanirbharta campaign has contributed or has continued into 2021 with the large-scale manufacturing of COVID-19 vaccines in India. Well, for more on this story, we've got our correspondent Abhishek Jha joining us this morning. Abhishek, good morning. Abhishek, Aatmanirbharta now getting a part of Oxford dictionary there. Surprising in the first place, or was it very much anticipated considering that 1.3 billion people are using this phrase at every point of time?
Of course, Anil, the word has been almost coined, though the word is coined earlier also, but the usage of this word has actually increased after the Prime Minister initiative in various of the, solution-driven approach regarding this corona pandemic. He has launched from the economic side to social side to people also. The self-reliance or the Aatmanirbharta word has only taken center stage in the last few months. And why this word has been chosen? So one of the members who was on this advisory board, she has to say that it's a number of interesting and topical entries that was received for the word of the year. Aatmanirbharta stood out because it validated the day-to-day achievements of the countless Indians who dealt with and survived the perils of pandemic. And this all confidence and among the people and the assurance from the government side, this all worked around this Aatmanirbharta that everybody has to be self-reliant, everybody has to come forward, and then only everybody can collectively deal with this pandemic that was once in a century time.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, Abhishek, this word Aatmanirbharta, this has been an unprecedented year for everyone. And this word really finding resonance with a wide cross-section of society. Like you said, finding solutions to many problems, many challenges that emerged during this challenging, tough year for everyone. And this was in fact also seen as an answer to the revival of a COVID-impacted economy as well.
Of course, we have seen that in the last few years or the last decades also, we have seen so many problems as a society, as a country. And everywhere we had other type of solution. But this time it was such a problem, such a pervasive, that all aspects of our life were in shambles because of this pandemic. And it was nothing that anybody else could have come forward and help you ease the solution. It was everybody's effort that needed in this hour of crisis, that everybody will have to pitch in some way or other, so that collectively as a society or as a country we could deal with the problem. And right in the time, Prime Minister initiated all those schemes regarding Aatmanirbharta or Aatmanirbharta from national to international segment. And now we also see that as the pandemic, the situation is easing up. Our vaccine is also one of the Aatmanirbharta related. So not only this word has helped society rely on itself, but it has also helped them come out with solution also with the kind of this whole concept of Aatmanirbharta. And we see that during the pandemic and now when the pandemic is going to get over, let's hope so very soon, Aatmanirbharta will remain an approach as a concept that helped find solution throughout this pandemic.
Oh yes, absolutely. The word Aatmanirbharta, in fact, giving a new meaning to all the challenges that were faced by our country. In fact, Prime Minister Modi there, in fact, also emphasizing time and again on becoming self-reliant, becoming Aatmanirbhar. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Well, that's the way forward, especially, especially in this trying time, not only for India, but also for the world, looking within, finding solutions to survive and to find the way forward. Well, now let's move forward in this particular bulletin too and take a look at the next story.
Yes, we are focusing on the Central Board of Secondary Education. They're releasing the date sheet for both class 10th and 12th for the board examinations 2021. The day sheet has been released nearly 3 months before so that students can make their study plan and overcome the problems faced during the pandemic. While the CBSE board examinations for class 10th and 12th will begin on the 4th of May. The class 10th examinations will finish on the 7th of June, while the last class 12th examination will be over by 11th June. The practicals will begin from the 1st of March and nearly 30 lakh students are set to appear for the CBSE board examinations. The results will be declared on 15 July. Class 12 board examinations will be conducted in 2 shifts to reduce the number of days, while Class 10 examinations will be held in a single shift from 10:30 in the morning to 1:30 in the afternoon. While all these examinations will be held with COVID-19 safety protocol in place, including wearing the face mask, use of the hand sanitizers and maintaining social and physical distancing. The Union Education Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank has assured that the government has made all the necessary arrangements for the smooth conduct of the examinations. He has also wished good luck to the students.
परीक्षाएं 4 मई से हैं। मेरी आपको बहुत शुभकामनाएं। मुझे भरोसा है कि अब जो ये डेट शीट आपको मिल रही है, इसके आधार पर आप खूब मेहनत करेंगे, अच्छी मेहनत करेंगे। और आपने तब भी दुनिया को बताया जब पूरी दुनिया इस कोरोना काल के महासंकट से गुजर रही हुई, परेशानी का सामना कर रही थी और अभी भी कर रही है, तब भी आपने बताया कि नहीं, हम भारत के छात्र पूरी ताकत के साथ हर परीक्षा को देने को तैयार हैं। हम अपनी सुरक्षा भी देखेंगे, अपनी रक्षा भी करेंगे, अपने भविष्य को भी संवारेंगे और अपने संवारा है।
Well, shifting focus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the Chauri Chaura centenary celebrations at the Chauri Chaura in Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh on the 4th of February, that's tomorrow at 11 a.m. via video conferencing. The day marks 100 years of the Chauri Chaura incident, a landmark event in the country's fight for independence. Prime Minister will also release a postage stamp dedicated to the Chauri Chaura centenary during the event. Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, will also be present on the occasion. The centenary celebrations and various events planned by the state government will begin in all 75 districts of the state from the 4th of February 2021 and will continue till the 4th of February 2022. Well, moving to the budget session of Parliament in Rajya Sabha, Rajya Sabha was expected to take up a slew of legislative business on Tuesday, but the opposition didn't allow anything to move forward over the issue of the new farm laws. Let's take a look at this report.
The Rajya Sabha on Tuesday witnessed noisy scenes and was adjourned repeatedly before being adjourned for the day as unrelenting opposition members demanded discussion on the farm laws. Ruckus ruled the House as opposition parties protested over Rajya Sabha Chairman Venkaiah Naidu's decision to turn down opposition parties' notices to discuss the issue of farm laws. Rajya Sabha MPs of opposition parties also staged a walkout after their demand was rejected. Rajya Sabha Chairman Venkaiah Naidu said that the issue was important, but the convention has been that such discussions are initiated by Lok Sabha and carried over to the upper house.
Because of pandemic, we could not have question hour and we could not have 0 hour. And many people protested against that, wrote articles also, made statements. Now we have question hour. Now we have question hour. Very important questions have been asked and replies of ministers are giving. Please, this is not fair.
The opposition members, however, were unrelenting in their demands and raised the matter again and again, creating further ruckus in the House. The House was adjourned repeatedly before being adjourned for the day. Government has now accused the opposition of running away from discussion.
कोरोना काल में क्वेश्चन आवर हो रहा है, जब प्रश्न काल हो रहा है और प्रश्न काल का सबसे ज्यादा लाभ तो विपक्ष को ही मिलता है और कहते हैं कि क्वेश्चन आवर ये विपक्ष का ही काल है.
The opposition members, meanwhile, seem to be in no mood to relent.
जब ऐसे दिक्कतें आती हैं और मुल्क में ऐसी स्थिति बनती है तो पार्लियामेंट क्या घंटों से, 2 घंटों से, मिनटों से नहीं, आप दिन भर चर्चा करो, एक दिन एक्सटेंड भी करो, इसके लिए कोई दिक्कत नहीं है.
Many opposition parties, in fact, had also boycotted the President's address on January 29th. With inputs from Parliament team, DD India.
And yesterday, the proceedings in the Lok Sabha began on a stormy note, with the opposition disrupting the House over the ongoing agitation by the farmers protesting against the 3 farm laws. Their relentless protests and sloganeering soon after the House met at 4 late afternoon led to adjournment of the proceedings in the House. Only a few questions could be taken up during the question hour before the House had to be adjourned. As the protests continued after the House met at 5 in the evening, following adjournment, the Agriculture Minister, Narendra Singh Tomar, said the government is willing to discuss every aspect of the agriculture issues and also asked the opposition to be a part of the discussion instead of indulging in protests and slogan shouting. And amid continued opposition protests, the motion of thanks was moved in the Lok Sabha by the BJP leader Loket Chatterjee when the House met at 7 in the evening. Now, with the opposition members raising slogans against the 3 farm laws, the Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla asked them to go back to their seats, but all went in vain. Later, he had to adjourn the House for the day. Now, meanwhile, both the houses of parliament will in fact continue the discussion on the motion of thanks on the president's address today as well. And for that, let's go across to our correspondent Vishal Barrister, who's been keeping a track of developments, what we can expect in parliament today, the entire day. And Vishal, good morning. Of course, yesterday, the entire day was sort of not really yielded productive results because of the ruckus created time and again, intermittent ruckus created by the opposition. Perhaps it's time for everyone to really come together on the table and discuss the issues, threadbare. But for that, everyone needs to work in unison. Vishal, that's what is required. What we can really expect through the entire day today in both the houses?
Well, a very good morning to you, Nancy, and my friend Anil. Yes, you already answered my question because both the parties, the treasury benches and the opposition need to sit together and discuss for the sake of the country. But what happened yesterday in both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, it seems that the same thing would be repeated today as well, because the opposition parties are hell-bent in getting their demands through, because they are asking for a complete repeal of the farm laws.
Right.
And it is very unfortunate that they are not ready to discuss anything. Yesterday also in the upper house, the leader of opposition had given a notice under Rule 267 and he wanted the business to be suspended and the farm laws should be repealed and discussion should be initiated on the farm laws, to which the chairman of the upper house rejected. And in the Lok Sabha also, the vote of thanks was also disturbed. If you remember, the opposition parties, barring BSP, most of the opposition parties did not even attend the president joint address. So it seems that the opposition has decided that they would not let the parliament proceed.
Okay, now also Vishal, today there is a motion of address to the president's address that's going to be taken up. Is there any other business schedule for the day? And also, since the government has made it stand very clear, they want to discuss the farm laws inside and outside parliament. It's very clear. So what's the ruckus all about when, the Union Agriculture Minister has made its stance very clear in parliament?
Well, absolutely. The Union Agriculture Minister went on record saying that the government is ready to discuss anything and everything.
True.
Even in parliament and also beyond the parliament, and the talks have been going on. But the opposition is hell-bent on its demand of a repeal of farm laws. So I do not think that they would let anything proceed in either house of the parliament, though the lower house commences at 4 o'clock in the evening and the upper house in the first half of the day. But what happened yesterday, it seems that the opposition has decided that they would continue to raise ruckus in the house, both houses of the parliament.
All right, Vishal, thanks for those inputs. We'll of course be keeping a track of the parliament proceedings throughout the day today with you and our rest of the correspondents as well. Thanks very much for the moment though. And let's now move on, get you more updates as far as India. They are gaining ground against COVID-19 while India's daily cases continue to follow a consistent downward slope. After reaching a high of 95,735 on the 10th of September last year, they have dropped down to 8,635 on the 2nd of January. That's the lowest in 8 months. And in another significant development, the country has reported less than 100 daily deaths in the last 24 hours. That's the lowest in 8.5 months. 100 deaths were recorded last on 15th of May last year. And in the last 24 hours, 1,91,313 healthcare workers have been vaccinated across 3,516 sessions. 72,731 sessions have so far been conducted, while the number of beneficiaries being vaccinated every day has shown a progressive increase.
Well, let's now take a look at the COVID situation across the worst affected states of our country, heading down south first, where Kerala, that has reported the maximum number of new cases on Tuesday. 5,716 positive cases being reported in a single day, besides 5,747 patients being discharged, while 16 patients died in the last 24 hours. Heading up west to Maharashtra, 1,927 new cases being registered yesterday, 4,011 patients being discharged, 30 patients losing their battle against COVID. Currently, 1,89,288 people in home quarantine and 2,121 people in institutional quarantine in the western state of India. Down south to Tamil Nadu, which continues to report a stable COVID-19 case tally, with the daily number staying below the 600 mark. A total of 510 persons tested positive for the disease across the state on Tuesday. 4 deaths being reported, while 521 patients were discharged in the last 24 hours. Up north to the national capital Delhi, where 114 new cases of infections were reported on Tuesday, 160 patients being cured and discharged, while 2 deaths being reported in the last 24 hours. Currently, there are 1,217 active cases of COVID in Delhi.
And at a time when almost all the states and the union territories are showing a declining trend in the number of cases and deaths due to COVID-19, Kerala and Maharashtra continue to report large number of cases. At present, these two states alone are contributing to almost 70% active COVID-19 cases across the country. And considering the situation, the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has deputed 2 high-level multidisciplinary teams to these 2 states to collaborate with the state health authorities in instituting public health measures for COVID-19 management. The central team to Maharashtra comprises of experts drawn from the National Centre for Disease Control and the Dr. RML Hospital in New Delhi. The Kerala team comprises senior officials from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, along with the experts from the Regional Office of the Health and Family Welfare, Thiruvananthapuram, and the Lady Hardinge Medical College, New Delhi. The team shall work closely with the state health departments and take a stock of the ground situation and recommend the necessary public health interventions to contain the large number of cases being reported by these 2 states.
Well, the entire population of Tamil Nadu will be vaccinated against COVID-19 to ensure full resumption of social and economic activities in the southern state. This was stated by the Governor Banwari Lal Purohit in his address to the Tamil Nadu Assembly on the opening day of the first session of the House in the new year. He commended the state government for its role in controlling the spread of coronavirus and said it had been achieved by relying on an exclusively RT-PCR based testing strategy despite higher costs.
Moving on now, the BJP National President JP Nada will be on a 2-day visit to Kerala from today to review the election preparations ahead of the upcoming assembly elections. He'll reach Thiruvananthapuram at around noon, where the state party leaders will accord him a grand welcome. JP Nada will attend the state BJP core committee meeting and also hold a press conference later on in the day. He'll also address the newly elected councillors and the block Zilla Panchayat members of the party. And before leaving for Thrissur, where JP Nada is slated to attend a public function, he'll also be visiting the Sri Padmanabha Swami temple in the evening and offer prayers there. Yesterday, the BJP announced the names of the party's election in charges and for 4 states, including Kerala.
Well, the National Investigation Agency, that's NIA, which deals with terror cases, will now probe the Israel Embassy blast case. The Ministry of Home Affairs has issued an order to hand over the case to NIA. Following the order, NIA will register cases under appropriate sections and will start investigations. The Delhi Police Special Cell will need to hand over all relevant evidence and documents to the agency. NIA officials have already visited the spot where the blast took place near the Israeli embassy in New Delhi on the 29th of January.
After all that news from across the nation, let's shift gears now and move on to getting you news from around the world in a segment across the globe. And we are beginning first with a continued focus on the developments in Myanmar, where public disquiet reverberated with the banging of the pots and the shouting of anti-coup slogans across the Yangon city against the recent military coup, which ousted the elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi's government. Car horns were also sounded as drivers rallied behind the calls for civil disobedience campaigns. Meanwhile, the ruling military warned against statements by the media and the public and a spreading of rumors on social media to incite rioting and causing instability. Now, Myanmar's political turmoil has invited criticism and flack from international community.
very, very important that the generals be held accountable for this illegal action. And there's a range of options that the international community has. Those are being considered right now. There's lots of discussions going on, but we're going to move into the action phase, I hope, as quickly as possible. I hope very soon. But what is clear is that this illegal activity, this outrageous assault on the people of Myanmar by the military cannot be allowed to stand.
The UK condemns the military coup and the detention of democratically elected members of the civilian government, including the State Councillor and the President, as well as civil society figures. The Tatmadaw should respect the rule of law and release all of those who've been detained arbitrarily with immediate effect.
The United States is deeply concerned by the Burmese military's detention of civilian government leaders, including State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi and civil society leaders. After a review of all the facts, we have assessed that the Burmese military's actions on February 1st, having deposed the duly elected head of government, constituted a military coup d'etat. The United States will continue to work closely with our partners throughout the region and the world to support respect for democracy and the rule of law in Burma, as well as to promote accountability for those responsible for overturning Burma's democratic transition.
Well, now let's take a look at an earthquake that took place with a magnitude of 4.2 that hit Nepal on Tuesday. The epicenter of the earthquake was determined to be around 28.8 north latitude and 87.4 east latitude. So let's hope we still, still getting no reports with regards to any casualties there. But let's hope that our neighboring country is safe and sound. Shifting focus now?
Yes, we're shifting focus now and getting you all the updates on COVID-19 pandemic, its impact all across the world. And as of now, more than 10 crore 43 lakh COVID-19 cases have so far been reported worldwide. The global death toll due to COVID-19 has crossed 22 lakh 61,000. Over 7 crore 62 lakh people have also recovered from the virus, while the US still continues to remain the worst hit country by the pandemic so far and has reported over 2 crore 70 lakh cases of the virus, with the death toll surging past 4 lakh 57,000. Brazil follows the US in terms of death toll with 2 lakh 26,000 deaths.
Well, Mexico has unveiled its COVID-19 vaccination plan. The country's Deputy Health Minister Hugo Lopez-Gatell revealed that it had signed a contract to buy 7.4 million doses of Russia's Sputnik vaccine and would likely issue an emergency use authorization for it within hours. The contract would provide the vaccine between Feb and April, with more due to arrive in May. Mexico's President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador earlier spoke to the Russian President Vladimir Putin about buying 24 million doses of the Russian vaccine.
The Palestinians initiated the COVID-19 vaccination campaign, inoculating the health workers first. Palestine had earlier received doses of COVID-19 vaccine from Israel and the international community. Now, people over the age of 60 or with chronic illnesses will also be the first to be provided the jab in the country. Palestine's COVID-19 cases are more than 1,59,000 of the virus, with over 1,800 fatalities.
While Cuba has kick-started human clinical trial of Abdallah, the potential COVID-19 vaccine developed by its state-run Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. The potential vaccine will be applied to a group of 760 volunteers aged between 19 and 59 years in the province of Santiago de Cuba. Cuba, which is the only Latin American country having clinical trials of its COVID-19 vaccine, has over 28,800 cases of the viral disease, with more than 200 deaths in the nation.
And news now from the US, where the President Joe Biden has signed 3 executive orders that aim at his predecessor Trump's hardline immigration policies. Biden has established a task force designed to reunite the families separated at the US-Mexico border. The latest orders build upon the actions taken in Biden's first days in office and begin to provide a clearer picture of the administration's immigration priorities. Biden's executive order on legal immigration calls for a review of the Trump-era rule that made it harder for the poorer immigrants to obtain permanent residency in the U.S. During his presidential campaign, Biden had pledged to set up a task force focused on identifying and reunifying families separated at the U.S.-Mexico border under the Trump administration's controversial zero-tolerance policy. The administration's new task force stems from that promise.
Meanwhile, in Florida, 2 FBI agents were killed early yesterday and 3 others were wounded while trying to serve a search warrant at a Florida home, an encounter that turned into one of the federal law enforcement agency's bloodiest in decades. The law enforcement is mourning the tragic loss of 2 FBI special agents, Daniel Alfin and Laura Schwarzenberger, while attempting to serve a search warrant in Sunrise. As a team of law enforcement officers tried to execute the court-ordered warrant involving the violent crimes against children at the homes in Florida, shots were fired early in the morning. The shooting deaths, which remain under investigation, are among the bloodiest episodes for the FBI. While expressing his grief, George Pirro, who's the FBI special agent in charge, termed it a dark day for the agency.
This is a very dark day for the FBI. Special agents Daniel Alfin and Laura Schwarzenberger were shot and killed in the line of duty. Our sympathies are with their families and loved ones. We, the FBI family, share in their loss.
And on to some other news from around the world. The Russian opposition leader and fierce Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison yesterday in a court proceeding that he condemned as politically motivated. Navalny made a hard gesture several times as he stood in the defendant's cage. His wife Yulia and several of his supporters were there to hear the court rule he had violated the terms of his parole, although he has said his prison term would be shortened as a result of time he had earlier served under the house arrest. One of President Putin's most prominent critics, Navalny was arrested at the Russian border on 17th of January after returning from Germany, where he had been recovering from being poisoned with a military-grade nerve agent. His allies called on their supporters to immediately protest against the court's ruling in central Moscow. Also, his lawyer has said the politician would appeal against the ruling.
While international students from over 200 universities across China have again demanded a clear date for their return to the universities in China, who are now stuck outside China for the last 1 year. Venting out their frustration and despair in another open letter on Twitter, students argued that they cannot keep paying school fees for online degrees which will not be recognized in their countries. They said students are planning a demonstration on no return, no school fees without giving any further details about it. The letter appealed to the Chinese authorities to allow them as epidemic control measures for traveling are already in place. Foreign students also said they are ready to take COVID tests, antibody tests and even vaccination if that helps them to return. They say that an online studies are practically not possible and these will not be recognized also in their respective countries. They further argued that US, Europe, Australia are all calling back students, then China can also call the international students back. They also expressed that China is showing its inability to include a small number of international students compared to the massive efforts it has shown in tackling the pandemic. Chinese Foreign Ministry said that the pandemic is still severe and countries formulate epidemic prevention measures according to their national conditions. It said China would study the return of foreign students to resume their studies.
While a SpaceX Starship prototype rocket exploded on landing after an otherwise successful high-altitude experimental launch from the Boca Chica in Texas. The Starship SN9 that blew up on its final descent like the SN8 destroyed earlier. It was a prototype for the heavy-lift rocket being developed by SpaceX to carry humans and 100 tons of cargo on future missions to the Moon and the Mars.
Well, after a look at all that international stories, it's time now to get our colleague on board who will get us the latest from the social media and also the news websites about stories that are impacting our lives.
And let's go across to our colleague Amritpal Singh joining us this morning. Amrit, good morning. Just take us through what have you selected for our viewers this morning to be shared across the World Wide Web.
Well, most newspapers and media on the World Wide Web have led with news about what happened in Parliament yesterday, the farmers' protest, Myanmar.
Right.
What we are bringing this morning is the Indian Express. It says 5 months to frame CAA rules, no NRC plan for now, government to House. The Union government yesterday told the Parliament that the rules for the Citizen Amendment Bill Act or the CAA may take 5 more months to be framed. The Ministry of Home Affairs told the Lok Sabha that the rules are still being framed and an extension has been approved by the Committee on Subordinate Legislation for both houses of Parliament. While the Lok Sabha committee has granted the government till April 9th, the Rajya Sabha panel has extended the deadline till July 9th. This was clarified by the Minister of State for Home Affairs, Nityanand Rai, in a written reply yesterday. Also the government clarified that there is no plan for an NRC right now. The census will be held according to the National Population Register, but the government has taken no decision on the NRC as of now. Well, the other big story which comes from Delhi is that vaccine for frontline workers in Delhi to begin from this week. The Times of India has printed this story. It says frontline workers like the police personnel and sanitation workers are likely to start getting vaccinated from this week. Out of 6 lakh frontline workers in the national capital, around 3.5 lakh have been registered for getting the shots. Remember, the center had written to the states last week saying that please upload the data about your frontline workers and start vaccination from the first week of this month. That has already begun, and states had uploaded about 61 lakh data of 61 lakh personnel frontline workers. The biggest vaccination drive of the world, which began on the 16th of January in our country. In the initial phase, the frontline workers, the medical workers, police workers, sanitation workers are being vaccinated. So now states have started picking that up. Both Covishield and Covaxines have been, dosages of that have been provided to the states, and states can start administering them from this week. The other big story that we've taken is from the Times of India. It says LAC row, or the line of actual control row. Biden admin slams China, stands by India. The story says in its first response to the Indo-China border standoff, the Biden administration has voiced concerns over Beijing's ongoing attempts to intimidate its neighbors and said it was closely monitoring the situation. Yesterday, a spokesperson of the National Security Council of the White House said this. It says it's concerned about China's attempts to intimidate its neighbors. And she also expressed hope that the talks between India and China would be able to peacefully resolve this matter. So that's what's making it to the media this morning. Back to you, Anil and Nancy.
Well, thanks, Amrit, very much for joining us for the moment and sharing with us the web review for this morning. Thanks very much. With that, let's move on now to our next segment, and that's the Business Buzz. Get you all the business news of the day today.
Well, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is all set to step down as the chief executive of the e-commerce giant that he started in his garage nearly 27 years ago. Amazon on Tuesday said that the founder would step down as the CEO and become an executive chairman. The decision comes as the company reported its third consecutive record profit and quarterly sales above $100 billion for the first time. The transition slated for the third quarter will make current cloud computing chief Andy Jassy as the Amazon's next chief executive officer. Amazon shares were up less than 1% in the after hours of trading on Tuesday. Well, up next.
Yes, absolutely. We're getting all the sports news now in our segment, the Sports Track. And Manchester United equalled the English Premier League record by putting 9 goals past 9-man Southampton, the second time Saints have lost 9-0 in as many seasons. It's only the third time a team has lost 9-0 in the Premier League, with United also beating Ipswich Town by that margin in 1995. While the Reds are now level on points with Manchester City ahead of their game against Burnley tonight, although Pep Guardiola's side do have 2 games in hand on the Old Trafford club.
Well, after the postponement of the South Africa-Australia Test Series, New Zealand were confirmed as one of the finalists for the inaugural ICC World Test Championship, leaving one spot up for grabs for all of India, England and Australia. New Zealand are currently number 2 in the ICC World Test Championship standings, having played all their league matches in the tournament. India are currently at the top spot with a PCT of 71.7, following their 2-1 series triumph in Australia. That series result left Australia at number 3 with 69.2, followed by England with 68.7 after the 2-0 win against Sri Lanka playing away. All 3 teams stand a chance to making that much coveted final spot against New Zealand.
All right, with that, let's move on now and get you our health story of the day today. Today we are focusing on how psychological and physical health is essential components of child's holistic development. However, worm disease nowadays has been impeding children's overall development, while some parents even complain about their child's unusual appetite. Moreover, the disease also causes anemia and malnutrition among children. So what are the symptoms of the worm disease and how to cope with it? Pediatrician Dr. Ankit Gupta has answered all the questions during special conversation with DD India. Listen in.
इनका लक्षण है बच्चों में ओवरऑल ग्रोथ का रुक जाना, बच्चे का मानसिक और शारीरिक विकास रुक जाना, बच्चों में भूख ना लगना या बच्चा खाता भी है तो उसके शरीर में उसका न्यूट्रिशन ना पहुंच पाना। और क्लिनिकली भी देखा गया है कि बच्चों में खून की कमी होना और बच्चों में स्कूल की एब्सेंटीज्म होना, बच्चे स्कूल से छुट्टी बार बार लेते हैं तो इसका मेन कारण है कीड़ों का होना। तो हम इसको कैसे रोक सकते हैं? कीड़ों को रोकने के लिए सबसे पहले हमें क्या करना है, हमें अपने बच्चों को समझाना है कि जब भी भोजन करेंगे, जब भी खाना बैठेंगे तो हमें हाथ धोने हैं और शौच जाने के बाद तो हाथ धोने ही धोने हैं। शौच कभी भी हमें खुले में नहीं करना है, हमें अंदर ही करना है और पानी को हमें उबाल के पीना है। इन सब अगर हम माध्यम का ध्यान रखेंगे तो हम बच्चों को इस कृमि जो हम कहते हैं कीड़ों से हम होने वाली बीमारियों से बचा सकते हैं।
So very important advice there given by that pediatrician and taking care as far as your child's holistic development, preventing the worms there inside the body. In fact, very important points he made there as far as making sure about the fecal functions as well, that they should always be in a clean and hygienic environment.
Well, lots of things to take care of, especially young ones, and you need to take care of them because they are our future. Well, time now to go into the past and take a look at all the important events that took place on this very day in history, 3rd of Feb.
On this day in 1509, the Battle of Diu was fought between the Portuguese forces on one side and the combined forces of the Sultan of Gujarat, the Zamorin of Calicut, the Mamluk of Sultanate of Egypt with support from the Republic of Venice and the Ottoman Empire. The Portuguese had a decisive victory and this battle changed the course of global maritime trade. This day in year 1925, the first electric train started from Bombay VT up to Kurla. The first train on Indian soil ran between Bombay to Thane on 16th of April 1853. On this day in 1928, the Simon Commission came to India. On that day, the entire country observed a hartal. On this day in 1966, the first rocket-assisted control landing on the moon was made by the Soviet space vehicle Luna 9. On this day in 1969, former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister and founder of the DMK party, C.N. Annadurai, died. He was affectionately called Anna or elder brother.
Well, time now to take, we are at the fag end of the show, but before we leave, let's take a look at the temperatures through satellite and also the map. Well, taking a look at that satellite image there, a western disturbance as a cyclonic circulation there over the northwest of India from today. What would it mean? It would mean that scattered to fairly widespread light to moderate rain and snow and isolated lightning and hail very likely over Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, Muzaffarabad today and over Himachal Pradesh today and tomorrow and over Uttarakhand over the next 72 hours. Isolated heavy rainfall and snowfall very likely over the higher reaches of Kashmir, Gilgit, Baltistan, Muzaffarabad and Ladakh today and over Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand expected over the next 48 hours. Also, interaction between the western disturbance and the lower level southeasterlies from the Bay of Bengal is likely to cause isolated to fairly widespread light to moderate thunder showers over Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, North Rajasthan, Northwest Madhya Pradesh and West Uttar Pradesh. Time now to take a look at the temperatures in your city. Well, it's a Wellness Wednesday. What happens on a Wellness Wednesday? You need to take care of yourself. You need to stay refreshed and stress-free. How do you do that? Well, a simple campaign that we are running for you, that's called Mask Up India, where we are requesting you to wear your mask till the time you're not vaccinated. And even if you are, there's a second shot that's still in the waiting. So you need to keep yourself protected by wearing a mask as you step out of the house. Remember, we are stepping out of the studios, so we're going to get our mask on, and we request you and urge each one of you, kids going back to schools, parents going to drop them, parents going to work, to your businesses, even with your loved ones. Do not forget to wear your mask at all times.
Absolutely. Take utmost precaution to keep yourself and your loved ones safe. It's a special campaign that we've been running for you. It's a special task to wear your mask. And with that, it's time for us to wrap up this edition of the Breakfast News. But before we do that, we are leaving you with a glimpse of Spot. Well, it's a dog-like robot developed in the US. It has now been provided with arms in its new version. So Spot can not only find your things but also bring those things to you. I feel, Anil, it's very useful there, clearly,
Well, I would need it always, especially since I end up losing things.
Okay, great. So I believe, it's very useful there. We're leaving you with these beautiful visuals. We wish you a great day ahead. Take good care of yourself and stay healthy, stay safe. Thanks for being with us.